Hey gang, how are you doing? I trust this finds you well. All is well with me. Welcome to Mzansi and USA News. Today is the 17th of June 2024. I'm doing a reaction video on the press release that was done by MK Party on behalf of Jacob Zuma yesterday, June 16th, in commemoration of the massacre that took place in 1976, 48 years ago. Nhlamulo Ndlela will take us through the speech that was written for them by Jacob Zuma, and then I will interject where, as and when it becomes necessary. Let's tune in.
Comrade President Jacob Zuma, our Commander-in-Chief, has requested that I read this address and make sure that we meet all the needs based on the noise that's been made. This is a public address to the nation by the President.
I would have you reminded that the Lord seated over here are the ones that have been making noise regarding our elections, not the other way around. Now they are addressing that very noise. How ironic. Let's proceed.
On the 2024 elections and the current political situation in South Africa. It reads the following. Fellow South Africans, it is not by coincidence that I address you today on June 16, 2024, on the 48th commemoration of the June 16 massacre, when young children stood up to the enemy and said, enough is enough. Today, we say the same. You will also remember that I last addressed the nation exactly 6 months ago, on 16 December 2023, in Soweto, where I gave 7 reasons why I had come to the difficult decision that I would campaign and vote for Mkhonto wesizwe and not for the sellout ANC of Ramaphosa. I called for the unity of the left and all progressive forces. On 16 December 2023, I said, open quote, I call on all South Africans to join me in taking this important step and vote for MK Party and any other progressive parties which seek total liberation and the return of our land to its rightful owners, the African people.
Did you hear that? Returning of the land to its rightful owners, the African people. So this clarion call that he made was to all the racist black parties, like the EFF, the UDM, the ATM, and so on and so forth, right? To expropriate land without compensation, to give it to black people. This is not a position of the African National Congress. It never has been. Now, he calls the African National Congress a sellout party, but yet he was in charge of the African National Congress as a president from 2009 up until 2018. Why could he not deliver the land that is at the disposal of government that was bought through the willing buyer, willing seller in all the 9 years that he was in charge? Why would he be able to do so now that he's 82 years old? I want you to ponder on what I'm saying. That's why I interjected. Why, if indeed he's going to make good of his claim, why couldn't he do it when he was much younger and much fresher and had the authority as a president? And is it really a sellout position by the ANC not to expropriate land without compensation? Or is that what is written in the Freedom Charter? I would have you reminded that in 1955, the ANC broke into two. And the reason why, which was the first biggest breakaway from the ANC, the PAC. And the reason for that breakaway was because the ANC under Z.K. Matthews from 1953 had played with the idea of a charter. And this was adopted on the 25th, 26th of June, if my memory serves me well. I could be wrong in terms of the exact month, but it was the 26th and the 25th and the 26th. I think 25th and 26th of June, wherein in Kliptown, a Congress of the People met after so much consultation right throughout the country for 2 solid years. A Congress of the People was held wherein more than 2,800 delegates had convened, and they adopted the Freedom Charter. What does the Freedom Charter say? Well, please Google it, you'll find it. It says in black and white, South Africa belongs to all those who live in it, and it goes further to say black and white. This is very, very important for you to decide for yourself who between Jacob Zuma and the ANC has sold out. Who is lying here? Because ultimately the African National Congress adopted that document as part of their policies. It therefore could not have sold out. If anything, Jacob Zuma is pushing a PAC narrative as though the ANC has just adopted the Freedom Charter. That happened in 1955. It's very possible that at that time Jacob Zuma was not even a member of the ANC. This is very, very important for you to understand. So this is not the ANC as he found it. This is the ANC as he would want it to be. Very, very important for you to bear that in mind. Now that I've said that straight for you, let's proceed.
The task ahead requires young and old leaders alike to pull in the same direction. No single organization can pull us all out of this present crisis. We require the same spirit which saw us defeat the monster of apartheid. I later indeed campaigned on the ticket of asking patriotic and freedom-loving South Africans to follow my lead and vote for Mkhonto wesizwe and other progressive parties in the 2024 elections. Before anything else, let me take this opportunity to thank all of the more than 4 million South Africans who voted for Mkhonto wesizwe and all progressive forces who are fighting for the return of our land. Siyabonga, Realeboga. He can say, Baie dankie. As we speak, the newly formed Progressive Caucus of parties commands close to 30% of the seats in the National Assembly. We strongly believe that if it was not for the massive electoral fraud and other irregularities committed while the IEC was watching, that number would be far higher and perhaps in the majority.
Now, once again, I would have you reminded that all political parties that participated in this election had to sign a service level agreement of some sort. And in this service level agreement, they know what the rules of the game are. They know exactly what the Electoral Act says. When you perceive or you come across irregularities, at what point in time do you report them? What steps to take for your irregularities to be addressed by the IEC? Jacob Zuma's Mkhonto wesizwe has sought to live outside those procedures, in the sense that they have not once brought evidence to IEC. Whatever little evidence they claim to have brought to IEC was dismissed because it was unfounded. To make a claim, therefore, that there has been massive fraud and irregularities is completely unfounded. It's nothing but what Hitler's propagandist, Goebbels, would have been proud of. Now, Goebbels is known as having said, you tell a people a lie long enough, repetitively, they will believe it. Mkhonto wesizwe by now believes their own lies, that there's been massive irregularities. They have not once been able to produce evidence of such irregularities. If you remember, on the day prior to the elections declaration, Mkhonto wesizwe's president, Jacob Zuma, addressed the media there where the election results were being beamed on the big screen. And then he said tomorrow he expects that there shouldn't be any declaration of elections. And the IEC should, any such declaration would actually provoke them, which should, by the way, be regarded as a threat to the IEC and its leadership, right? Now, that very night, the IEC addressed the same press conference with the same media, wherein they were asked questions based on the things that Jacob Zuma and his cohorts there claimed. And the IEC dismissed those things. Things like there were two people that were arrested by SAPS who worked for the IT company that was servicing them, who had apparently intercepted data through the computer systems and changed the results of the elections. The IEC CEO was not aware of this. SAPS themselves were not aware of these people that were arrested. So what I'm trying to say to you is you need to be very, very, very careful of people who make serious claims like this, right? Yet they don't produce one shred of evidence. Extraordinary claims requires extraordinary evidence. This is nothing but pure propaganda in the similitude of Goebbels, who was Hitler's propagandist. Bear that in mind. Let us proceed.
But even after the daylight robbery, to achieve almost 30% in the National Assembly puts us in a very strong position to fight on for the total economic liberation of Black and African people.
I ask again, for a man who was a president of this country for 9 years, for 2 terms, why couldn't he usher in this liberation, this economic liberation of Black people? I would have you reminded what Jacob Zuma did when he was a president. He took a country. Okay, you know what? Let me suspend myself. Let me allow someone else to tell you what Jacob Zuma did when he was a president. Listen to this.
Things that you've written, even in your opinion piece, is that South Africa is no longer an emerging economy or an emerging country, but a submerging one. Worrying words there. Why was it important for you to put that thought forward, Dr. Koza?
Good morning once again, Naledi, and good morning to the listeners. I have had to put it that dramatically so that perhaps it could shake some of our leadership, because there is a sense in which at the time of the advent of our democracy, I think we were quite good. And one was hoping that they will move from that good to great, to quote some author. And we did actually move from good to better following the advent of democracy. Whenever I traveled abroad, and I said I am from South Africa, the iconic stature of our political economy came to the fore, and people would shout, "Oh, Mandela!" And then following that, we had the leadership, very, very sound leadership that was characterized by 4 to 6% GDP growth under President Thabo Mbeki. But things turned for the worse, subsequent to the ascendancy of his successor, and culminated, as it were, in the mortgaging of our political economy to a family, an Indian family. And that was followed by what you could call pre-pendalism, i.e. where leadership would actually raid the fiscus for the benefit of themselves and those close to them. But lately, the situation in which we find ourselves is the one where your infrastructure is crumbling. It's one where your parastatals, if you like, state-owned enterprises, are not performing. There was a time when some of them performed so well. In fact, they were characterized as world-class. Eskom at one stage was described as the power company of the year by Financial Times. We were also rated above the sovereign by Moody's. But following that, things are unwinding, unraveling. GDP growth is less than 1% when our population growth is around 2%. So we are, in fact, going backwards. A nation that cannot provide water adequately, cannot provide energy adequately, that cannot provide infrastructure for its economic operations and growth is not emerging. Emerging economies are actually able to do all of that, at least a modicum of that. That's why I argued that we are, in fact, submerging.
Yeah.
Did you guys hear that? All of that was single-handedly done by Jacob Zuma. He's the one who's the successor of Mbeki. He's the one who ascended and, according to Dr. Khoza, mortgaged our country to a family of Indians for what they would give to him as an individual. Well, the rest is history. Here we are. Why would you trust such a man? A man who was a president when he had all the power concentrated in his hands. He misused it to the nth degree and brought the country to where it is right now. For the first time, as Thabo Mbeki says at UNISA in one of his speeches 2 months ago, for the first time under this man who sought to destroy SARS, the revenue generator of the state to the extent of 95 to 98%, this man, suddenly the African National Congress under his leadership had a youth league that had policies which were divergent from its mother body, that was talking about expropriation of land from white people to give it to our people. And then Thabo Mbeki asked, who is our people if it's not all South Africans? So what am I trying to show you? It's not the first time that he's trying to divide us based on the skin color. The entire 9-year period that he was a president, this is all that he has been doing. Do you wonder where the Malema phenomena comes from? From his training. Malema was a prodigy that was being trained. He was in training school at the time that Zuma was the president of the ANC. Hence, he came out publicly to form a political party that spews the poison that he does. Now, here is the author of that poison coming out publicly, telling us the same thing and rehashing the same thing. Why are we supposed to trust this divisive man who seeks to divide our country like this? Now, of course, you heard it from someone who's not me, who's older than me, who makes it very clear. Now, the reason why I showed you this is so that you understand I am not the only one who feels this way concerning Jacob Zuma. Okay? All educated individuals, well, not all, most educated individuals, because I know there are some individuals who were beneficiaries of Zuma's corruption. As a result, to this day, they've become his spokesperson, because they've made millions out of Jacob Zuma's government, others through representing him, others through tenderpreneurs, and so on and so forth. These are individuals who belong nowhere but jail because of their unethical conduct, and they are willing to do anything as long as they can make a quick buck. That's not what I'm talking about. But all individuals who went to school who are worth their salt, they will tell you how Zuma destroyed this country. Why, therefore, are there so many people? And this is not the media narrative, contrary to what people would want you to believe. The Guptas are not a media making. They are real individuals. Dr. Khoza has not obviously met me personally, but yet I know about this. Yes, of course, some of the things we read about them in the media. I've made few videos where I spoke at length about how Zuma sought to destroy our country. I'm not going to go that route here. I want, however, to focus on what they are saying here. And the reason why I played this excerpt is to demonstrate to you that when he had the opportunity and the power, he never gave the land to black people. And there is a lot of land in the government coffers that was bought through the willing buyer, willing seller, that government under Zuma and under Ramaphosa is keeping and not giving it over to the people. Why is that? Why is that? Did you hear from Dr. Khoza when South Africa started going south? It's when Zuma ascended and became president, good people. Any reasonably prudent individual would therefore not follow the so-called progressive forces, because in reality, they are regressive forces that would lead South Africa to a Zimbabwe. Okay? Let's proceed with the interview.
Our message to the heroes of June 16 is: the centuries-old struggle for the return of our land will take a new shape starting today, 16 June 2024. This united effort is necessary because the 2024 election has also resulted in the consolidation of right-wing and reactionary forces who are opposed to economic freedom, racial economic transformation, racial equality, and land repossession, led by the ANC of Ramaphosa and the Democratic Alliance, which is the replacement of the racist National Party of Hendrik Verwoerd, B.J. Vorster, P.W. Botha, and F.W. de Klerk. Their regimes could not have lasted even one day without black collaborators such as Ramaphosa.
You know, these guys are very good at propaganda. F.W. de Klerk campaigned to be president in 1988 on a ticket of releasing Nelson Mandela and all the political prisoners. And the Nationalist Party voted him to power. I want to repeat what I've just said, because Zuma is rewriting history here. President de Klerk is not in the similar order of P.W. Botha, Verwoerd, or any of the other Afrikaners whose names have been mentioned here. F.W. de Klerk campaigned in 1988 on a ticket of releasing Nelson Mandela and all political prisoners, and he was campaigning against who? P.W. Botha, who was then the president, who had made it very clear that Nelson Mandela would die in jail. So if F.W. de Klerk was in their similar order, Zuma himself would not have been released from Robben Island, right? Nelson Mandela, at least we know he would not have been released in Robben Island. And all the other political prisoners. De Klerk won the elections. That was in 1988. And in 1989, de Klerk released Walter Sisulu, Govan Mbeki, Ahmed Kathrada, and who did I forget? Raymond Mhlaba, and many others. That was 1989. And then in 1990, February, he released Nelson Mandela, thereby fulfilling his promise. And then, that was 1990, de Klerk crisscrossed this country in 90 and 91, asking white people that now that we have released their political prisoners, let's give them a right to vote. Now, all South Africans who are as old as I am, or at least were old enough to remember what I'm telling you, they will remember it. The fact that they choose not to tell the story is evidence of how human beings can turn out to be liars when certain things do not suit them. But at no point in time can you accuse de Klerk of the things that is being accused here. That's the man, literally, who brought the reformation that took place since 1990. He's the one who, his very campaign to be president. And then he crisscrossed the country from 1990 to 91, talking about a referendum which he held in March the 17th, 1992. And the referendum was simple, a yes or no, because he went around the country saying black people should be allowed to vote. If you don't want them to vote, say no on the referendum. But I will host a referendum to this effect. And he did. He went ahead and hosted it. And guess what? 88% voters turnout came out, and 68.73% whites said, yes, black people should be allowed to vote. And those are racists. This is amazing. Where do such hatred from human beings come from? Such that they are willing to rewrite history, such that they are willing to tell lies, to fabricate stories, to create an impression that is non-existent. Are white people racist? Sure, there are racists amongst white people, like the ones that are talking to us right now here, What do you call what these people are spewing through their mouth if it is not racism? What do you think white hatred is? Racism. And racism of any kind is evil. It doesn't matter who does it. Okay, let's continue.
Today, all of those sellout forces have been replaced by the ANC of Ramaphosa, which has taken us back to 1948. Fortunately, millions and millions of our people have realized.
We are not in 1948, good people. In 1948, black people could not vote. In 1948, everywhere black people walked, they had to carry an identification because there was armies all over that were ready to arrest you if you don't carry your DOM pass, okay? There were pass laws that were passed through. In 1948, apartheid was at its height. So we are not in 1948. Not by any figmentation of imagination. There is no comparison between where we are today to where we were in 1948. As a matter of fact, I dare say to you, in 1992, when de Klerk was a president, we were nowhere, comparatively speaking, to 1948. It's a lie. It's a propaganda. You can believe it if you so choose. It's up to you. All I'm simply doing here, because I'm old enough and I've read history and I understood history and I've lived history, it's important for me to tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. Firstly, Jacob Zuma has no exclusive rights to blackness. I'm black and I don't agree with his nonsense. I think Jacob Zuma is a racist who is very, very divisive. He certainly doesn't represent me or anybody that I know. So this nonsense of claiming to be progressive, yet they are regressive and they are seeking to divide this country along color lines should be brought to an end. If you guys want to live in Zimbabwe, Zimbabwe is next door. Go to Zimbabwe and stay there. And don't come back to this country when you're seeking to divide it. Of course, you have a right to be here for as long as you understand that your racism, just like the white racists keep it to themselves, keep your racism to yourself. Don't call it progressiveness. It's a regression. Or go and have your own Bandustan of some sort where you can practice your racism. This is complete nonsense. I can't believe that people will sit and spew nonsense like this consistently for 2 hours. I'm glad I didn't listen to the 2 hours because even this 39 minutes, I don't think I'm going to finish it.
The road to freedom starts with the removal of the ANC of Ramaphosa. They did so either by voting for the progressive parties or by refusing to vote at all. All we need to do is to convince the last 6 million people who have not yet realized that voting for the ANC of Ramaphosa is to invite racism, inequality, hunger, landlessness, and poverty back into the lives of Africans.
The irony, says a guy that brought all those things to black people during his presidency, where he took a country that was growing by 5 to 6% year on year, where he took a country that was creating jobs left, right, and center. Right? Children were getting jobs from varsity, from high school, you name it. And he took that country and he turned it around where he couldn't grow the GDP more than the birth rate in the country. He is the one responsible for all that destruction. And here he comes, he blames Ramaphosa. Wow, the temerity of this man. This is amazing. This is tremendous deception, by the way. I wouldn't believe it if someone else had told me and I didn't live through it. This is tremendous deception. Jacob Zuma, I repeat, is very dangerous to our democracy. Guys, mark my words. You don't pay attention to this man's actions and the people around you who fall prey to this man's lunacy, okay? Because you know what? There is a place for people who are not well mentally, okay? It's called a mental asylum, okay? Jacob Zuma, to me, either should have been allowed to serve his 15 months in jail, we wouldn't be having the crisis that we are having right now. For me, he clearly belongs nowhere but jail. I mean, 350 lives have been lost after all because he was arrested, and he claims here to be peaceful and pursuing peaceful means when he stood publicly and threatened the IEC that if they declare the elections, they will be provoking them. This is a serious joke. Really, guys, I think this for me is something that is worthy for all thinking individuals to pay attention and to monitor it closely. Fellow South Africans, those of you who are patriots and really love your country, I know I'm one of them. The only reason why the ANC has gone down the way it has is because we were punishing it for Zuma's sins and Ramaphosa's sins. There's no other reason why the ANC went down in votes the way they did, because the ANC increased in cronyism when Zuma became a president. He was the most corrupt president this country has ever had prior to Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa, of course, he just started digging when he got to the bottom, isn't it? Now, the point I'm trying to make is how interesting that today he's pretending as though he had nothing to do with it. Wow. Are they even listening to themselves?
For the record, Mkhonto wesizwe is of the strong view that the 2024 elections were rigged and that the results announced by the IEC are not a true reflection of the will of the people.
Yeah. We've heard that ad nauseum. You haven't furnished us or the IEC with one shred of evidence to that effect. Lawlessness is not going to get you anywhere. You undertook to comply with the Electoral Act when you were allowed, when you registered to participate in elections. You clearly did not comply with the Electoral Act, Section 53, Section 54, as well as Section 55. And that is why your matter was rejected outright. You people are chance takers. You are simply using the law to try to divide South Africans again, to enter into your victimology, victim mode, because this is how Jacob Zuma won support and the love of South Africans in 2007, 2008, because people felt that he was being persecuted by Mbeki unduly. And there are individuals right now who are not thinking, okay, who are believing the same lies. Please make it make sense that there's 2 million people somewhere who thought it necessary to vote for a party that had his face. Make that make sense. Please make that make sense. That there are reasonably prudent individuals who thought that it is appropriate to vote for a guy that divided our country the way that he did, that failed to grow the economy of this country by more than 1% for 9 solid years, that destroyed our parastatals, that destroyed our way of life the way that he did and created joblessness, hunger, poverty, starvation. And now he comes out here with such temerity to make claims that it is the ANC of Cyril Ramaphosa that has sold us to who? Who did they sell us to? Who did you sell us to? My goodness. Unbelievable.
Before and after results, we have presented concrete evidence to the IEC showing widespread irregularities in the voting process and the voting system. It has all fallen on deaf ears. We've also tried all peaceful means to address our grievances, but all in vain. We have even approached the highest court in the land, but it rejected our pleas without even giving us a hearing and relying on technicalities while the democracy itself is being destroyed.
This is a joke, guys.
As another form of peaceful protest, we have also voiced our dissatisfaction by boycotting the first sitting of the National Assembly last Friday.
Biggest mistake you've made.
All these are constitutionally allowed methods of peaceful protest. We shall not tire from using peaceful means because we do not believe in resolving problems through violence, despite the fake narrative of our enemies.
There is no fake
We
narrative.
call on all our supporters to be patient, even in the face of the most serious provocation by the institutions of democracy, which are supposed to be independent and unbiased.
So when the Constitutional Court properly rejects an unthought of legal attempt to reverse our elections because it has no basis, it's provoking Zuma's supporters. That's basically what they are saying. That these constitutional institutions like the Electoral Court, the IEC, who rejected their claims without evidence, are literally provoking them. So in order for them not to be provoking Jacob Zuma and his cronies, they should just accede to their baseless claims that indeed there is vote rigging. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Guys, can you see that this guy is unveiling why he should never have been a president in the first place? I hope you can see that.
The most frustrating treatment was when 26 political parties lodged almost 600 objections, which were publicly addressed in the evening of Saturday, the 1st of June 2024, at the IEC Results Center. Literally within minutes of making our cries for fairness and asking the IEC to delay the declaration of the results until our objections were addressed, the chairperson of the IEC told the media and the country that the IEC was going ahead to announce the results as planned and as if nothing had happened.
There they go again on their propaganda machinery. Guys, I don't think I'm going to go any further with this video, eh? I mean, I'm sitting at 36 minutes. There is no substance here. This is a repetition of lies after lies after lies. The IEC held a press conference after Zuma and his cronies held a press conference. And they said they had about 579 queries. However, by tomorrow, all those, they said they are going to, after leaving here, we are going to be locked in a room. We are going to methodically go through each query. And they declared there would be about 24 recounts which were going to be carried out. They were asked the geographical location of those counts and the VDs, and they gave them in that media. And these people are sitting here telling you that the IC did nothing. Those people did not sleep that night, and you could see it on the following day when the chairperson was standing, the podium, that he was self-deprived of sleep. And here they are telling us that the IEC did nothing. No, the IEC considered everything that was submitted. And based on the process that gets to be followed, they came to a conclusion that there is no material infringements on the elections, material adequately to not declare the elections. Hence, the elections were declared. And you know all of this, but because you are up to no good, you're going to repeat these lies over and over again for Goebbels' effect, right? As Goebbels said, tell a lie long enough, the people will believe it. I can see already there are youngsters who believe your lies. Amazing.
This was despite the fact that the law allowed the IEC another 4 days to attend to our issues. It is therefore our strong view that the premature declaration of the results was totally illegal. The only reason
there was no premature declaration of results. The results were declared 3 days after the elections, not because the IEC couldn't go to the 7th day. They could have. However, the IEC has been so effective since our democracy that there has been no need to wait for the 7 days. You get the point, to lapse. There are multiple reasons that could be given as to why that is the case. For the stability of the country, those of us who have voted wants to know who won, who lost. There are so many reasons that were actually given by the chairperson of the IEC as to why this tradition of them, even though the constitution clearly says they have 7 days, that 7 days is more on the cautious side. But it has never ever been utilized since the dawn of our democracy. So this year would have been no different, save there were reasons to take it to the 7 days. But they were not going to wait for MK claims which are not substantiated with evidence that is proof. Therefore, you can't call it premature declaration of results, because the last results when Ramaphosa won were declared within 3 days. Both results that Zuma became a president were declared within 3 days. Why didn't he complain then? This makes absolutely no sense, except that this man is self-serving.
Given by the IEC for rushing was to please the markets.
That's a lie.
It is the people who voted and not the markets. The constitutional mandate of the IEC is to serve the voting public and not the markets.
That is true, but the IEC never gave that.
We took this issue to the Constitutional Court for its attention, but to add insult to injury, the Constitutional Court missed the whole point and failed to address the key issue of illegal declaration of results. Instead, the Constitutional Court concerned itself with the evidence of irregularities. But that was not the issue we brought to them. That issue belongs to the Electoral Court.
No.
It is irrelevant whether our objections were valid or invalid.
The
issue is that the IEC was not entitled to brush us aside and to proceed without rushing the declaration of those results before looking into the allegations made on behalf of millions of South Africans.
Of course, they looked into your allegations and they found them to be meritless, to be baseless. And guys, you know what? According to the Electoral Act, the evidence of all the different VDs, voting stations, districts, ballots, is kept for 6 months. You get the point? And the reason why all that information is kept for 6 months is so that Section 55 allows political parties, after 3 days of declaration of elections, to submit evidence of their claims. These individuals seated here failed to do that. And now they say the Constitutional Court oh my goodness. And they are being represented by Mpofu. Don't get me started. The Constitutional Court did what? They misconstrued your application and they dismissed it on technicality. Please go and read the judgment, because I've read the judgment that you were given. The judgment that you were given is so detailed that it does go to the merits of your case, that you have misunderstood sections 46 through 50, 3 of the Electoral Act, and therefore the Constitutional Court dismiss your matter, amongst other things. Yes, indeed, they did focus on the technicality of the fact, as I had said in a video prior to you going to Constitutional Court, that your application will be rejected. What type of lawyers do you people have, and what type of law did they read and study? Are they making money out of you? Is that even ethical? Because the law is pretty clear in this matter. If I as a layperson knew that your matter would be rejected out of court, if I as a person knew that you would win the issue against the ANC on your logo, if I as a person knew that you would lose the issue of Jacob Zuma, Section 47(1)(e), if I knew all of that and I'm a layperson, why would your lawyers not know that your matter would be rejected out of the Constitutional Court? Why couldn't they advise you properly, except that they wanted to make money out of you? No, man, come on. This for me is really a serious joke for people who want us to take them seriously. And by the way, for your information, we are now sitting on about 13 minutes. I'm going to go to the 15th minute, right? And I'm going to stop. The reason for that is because they are repetitive right throughout this video. There's no new information. From the 15th minute all the way to the 30th minute, they're going to repeat themselves. They're going to say everything that Nhlamulo has just said now. So it's not worth my while to go through there, but let's listen up until the 15th minute.
The voters. The court failed to address this matter. We also complained that the boycott would result in a National Assembly not reaching the minimum number of 350 members.
Another
as referred to
misunderstanding
in
of the law.
Constitution.
Another
That issue
misunderstanding
was
of the
also not
Constitution.
addressed.
It was addressed.
Surprisingly, the Constitutional Court said the matter was not urgent and the court did not have jurisdiction.
There's nothing surprising about that. How many days did it take you guys to go to the Constitutional Court after the elections? There's nothing surprising about that. People who studied law will tell you this. Your case would have been kicked out of the Constitutional Court because if it was urgent, you ought to have, at least within a day or two of the electoral results being declared, you ought to have filed your papers with the Constitutional Court, which you didn't do. So there was no urgency. There's no basis for urgency in your matter. The fact that you guys are so lawless that you are unable to engage with the dialogue that the Constitutional Court has given to you, now you are willing to come here and lie to the public that does not understand the law nor care to read the document themselves. Please, good people, go and read the document. They are lying here. The Constitutional Court did give why must their case fail? They even go to the merits. Why should the case fail on merit? And here they are on a press conference saying that it was just on a technicality. Wow. These people can lie with a straight face like this because they banking on the fact that they are addressing simpletons. People who are not going to take the time to go and read these documents for themselves. How sad. How sad.
That means we should have gone to another court, even though the first sitting of Parliament was only a few days away. It simply does not make sense at all to deal with such serious issues by resorting to pure technicalities. That is the same court which was prepared to give urgent and direct access to Judge Zondo to bypass the criminal courts and to sentence me.
I knew you'd get to this because this is the whole reason for the discourse we are having. That he was duly sentenced for misconduct and disdain of the court of law, of a judge of our highest court in the land. Deputy Chief Justice at the time, Zondo, was a Deputy Chief Justice of the highest court in the land, and Zuma disrespected him to the nth degree during the Zondo Commission. And he was given time, and he was sent a letter, and he did an interview. I do have a video that I've addressed this matter already. He did an interview where last month, he did an interview where he himself claims that he received the letter and he told the judges he was not going to appear before them. This after he was in contempt of court and he was told to appear on so date. Yet now he comes publicly to claim that no, he was sentenced without trial. No, sir, your trial date was given you. You chose not to attend it. That's why you were sentenced. You were given an opportunity that you are entitled to state your case. You refused it by not appearing. That's why you are sentenced. You were not sentenced without a trial. You chose not to have a trial by yourself. These individuals, they must think everybody else is a simpleton.
Prison without a trial.
There you go.
Now the same court is not prepared to give direct access to test whether the IEC acted wrongly in rushing the declaration of those election results and possibly having an illegal government for the next 5 years.
If there's a possibility that we are having an illegal government for the next 5 years, the truth of the matter is we did have an illegal government for 9 years whilst you were a president. And how did that turn out for our country? Our country has deteriorated to a point of no decimal. People are jobless. Poverty is everywhere. Our infrastructure has been ruined because you deployed cadres in positions of high influence, incompetent cadres in positions of high influence, because your political party deployed you, say, a standard 2 pupil who was incompetent to run a country, to run a complex country like South Africa. And all you could do was to remind us of apartheid in your endeavor to spread a political propaganda that was so divisive, meant to divide black and white. You have successfully, in your 9 years as a president, divided this country along color lines. You are doing nothing different right now but to perpetuate the same. Fellow South Africans, I beseech thee by the mercies of God, do not fall prey of these lies. These are lies in the order of Satan, Lucifer. Why? Because they are laced up with the truth. The reason why rats love Retex is because more than 95% of Retex is nutritious. That's why rats fall for it. The reason why many people are deceived by Satan into all manner of deceitful endeavors and sins is because what Satan feeds them is truth mixed with lies. Jacob Zuma appears to be some sort of a revolutionary because he has a history in the struggle. He's not the only one. Because he was arrested and spent 10 years in Robben Island, he's not the only one. He was not the first, nor was he the last, but he's one of the most divisive individuals, one of the most self-serving individuals, and I dare say he has been paid in full by the amount of destruction and the chaos he brought to our country by for the time that he served in Robben Island. He's already paid himself. He built himself the what you call inkandla at our expense, right? Well, at least the renovations. According to Tulima Donsela, he was supposed to pay back to the country about 7.4 million, if my memory serves me correctly. Okay, the Nugent Commission report, and I want to emphasize this. Please read the report. I have the report here. I could beam it, but it's quite a lot of pages, about 200 pages. The Nugent report states categorically how Zuma sought to destroy SARS. I want you to understand, if SARS was successfully destroyed, 1 million people would have lost their jobs if that carnage that Zuma was on was not stopped. When Ramaphosa took over, he immediately had to dismiss the head of SARS that Zuma had employed. This is one of very few good acts that Ramaphosa performed when he came into power. Otherwise, SARS would have been completely destroyed, and therefore this country would have been right now a pauper. Okay? So please do not, I beseech thee, by the mercies of God, for the second time, do not fall prey of this man's lies. Do not fall prey of this man's lies. This man is lying through his teeth. He is rewriting our history. The African National Congress as a political organization is a non-racial party. It's for both black and white. It's not meant to expropriate land from any whites to give to blacks. And the Rainbow Nation knows nothing about expropriating land from whites to give to blacks. And you know what? If Zuma had a competency of Mbeki, he would have grown our economy by 5% year on year. If he simply continued where Mbeki had left off, there would be no joblessness in South Africa today. None whatsoever. Because at the time Mbeki was a president, they took a country that only had 8 million members of the middle class. 8 million members. And they made 14.5 million by the time Mbeki left the office. That is tremendous, 6.5 million additional. And what did Zuma do? From the beginning of Zuma's 9 years to the end of Ramaphosa's first term, they only added 2.5 million jobs to what Mbeki and Mandela did. That is travesty, good people. Hence, the GNU is a welcome change for South Africa, which Zuma here disdains. Beware of people who come to you as sheep in wolf's clothing, who come to you speaking your language, revolutionary language, like Julius Malema, like Jacob Zuma, yet they are seeking to destroy you from within. Okay? Now, I'm not going to speculate between Ramaphosa and Jacob Zuma, who is a spy. I'm not going to speculate about that. But we know very well who is seeking to destroy the African National Congress. I'm not an advocate for the African National Congress. That's why I'm not delving into that arena. But I'm simply saying Zuma had his time. He failed with a cum laude. Why should we trust him? You need to spread this message to as many people as would hear it. That Jacob Zuma is not good for our country. Just like he's telling his propaganda, we need to tell our truth. That the man had his 9 years, he destroyed our country, as Dr. Koza says. He mortgaged it to an Indian family. Please never forget that. For that reason alone, he's not supposed to be in the public domain. He's supposed to have retired. For that reason, this man has no shame. How dare he? What reason does Jacob Zuma have that makes him to think that he's more South African than any of us, black or white? What reason does he have? Guys, let me love you and leave you, because I'm getting animated. I really hate injustice to the core of my being. I do not wish Jacob Zuma any ill, but Jacob Zuma is extremely evil and divisive. Mark my words. Yes, indeed, there are people who are going to think that I hate Jacob Zuma. No, I don't, but I hate his ways. I don't hate the man. I hate his ways. He has been taken over, as far as I can see, by a malevolent spirit that is seeking to destroy this country. This is what happened to Mugabe, by the way, in case you don't know. That is why more than 50% of Zimbabwe's population is in our country today. Because of a self-anointed individual who decided he is the only one who can speak for the people of Zimbabwe. That's what Jacob Zuma is doing. Do not fall prey of this. I hope I have emphasized this adequately. Do not fall prey of it. Ciao, ciao.